go on from Dragon Ball Z, and you're listening to the Monsters with Attitude podcast. Like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, embrace the attitude! Yeah!
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Raw Attitude presented by Monsters with Attitude. I am your host, Eric. Alongside me, as usual, my brother from another mother, Joe. What is going on, buddy?
Hey, bud. How are you? Super excited for today's show. Can I just say, can I admit something? I think one of my first crushes ever was our guest. So I feel like a little schoolboy. I'm gonna blush a little bit, like getting a little sweaty, but you know.
Dude, you ain't wrong. You ain't wrong, honestly. I was gonna say the same thing, where just a heartthrob, just dynamite. Oh my gosh. And still to this day, I mean, she has not lost her touch in any way. Yes. Cannot wait to talk to her. And yeah, and I love this movie. It's such a great movie and everything. And and just we're gonna hear a lot of her stories and stuff like that pertaining to King Kong escapes and everything. But yeah, I'm just absolutely thrilled and excited and just lucky, that she was able to give us her time and everything. Mind you, we were having technical difficulties earlier, so please bear with us. There's a little bit of a delay for her and everything, so we'll bear through it. And we're still gonna have a hell of a time and everything. But yeah. With that, please help me welcome Lieutenant Susan Watson from King Kong Escapes, Miss Linda Jo Miller. Linda, thank you for being on our show, and we are super excited to have you.
Well, thank you. With that introduction, I'm super excited to be here.
Oh, how gonna make me blush?
No.
Make me blush.
Oh, this is great. Thank you. Yes, thank you for coming. We're so excited. You're so talented, and like I meant it. You were like a crush of mine when I was a kid, for sure. But I've got a chance to meet you at G Fest, and was it AMA? Were you at All Monsters Attack too, Linda?
In Indianapolis?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I was there.
Oh, okay.
You're just such an unbelievably kind person, which is so great, because sometimes, we've met a lot of different people, and for the most part, everyone is very kind, but you definitely take the cake. You are just such a sweetheart, and that's great. I'm honored to be a part of this today. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you guys again.
Absolutely. So yeah, we're just gonna jump right into it with our first question. So just want to kind of get like a backstory on you and you growing up, or how did you actually end up getting into Japan and living there, and like what's that backstory like?
My dad was in the Air Force, so it was time for him to do an overseas duty, and so I asked him to put in for Spain because I was studying Spanish. And my dream was to become an interpreter at the UN in Spanish. And as the military does, they sent him to Japan instead of where he requested. So I was really upset. So what I did was I graduated a year early. I took summer classes because I didn't want to, leave. We were living in Oklahoma. So I didn't want to leave Oklahoma and then go to Japan and have 1 year of high school and that's it. So I graduated a year early. We go to Japan, and I missed my high school graduation because the orders were we had to be in San Francisco to catch the plane on the day I was supposed to walk across the stage and get my diploma.
Wow.
I mean, Air Force timing is always, or military timing is always just
Yeah.
so so my dad had gone on ahead like 4 months before Mom and I went. And so we get to Japan and my dad says, do you remember the girl you used to live next door to in France? I think I was in 2nd and 3rd grade. I said, yeah, I don't remember her name now, but I said, yeah, I remember her. And he says, well, she's having a graduation party tonight and I think you should go. So I have to back up a bit. I was very much against going to Japan until I got there. And then once we landed, I just had this awesome sense of belonging. It was really weird, you know. So so I get there and I go to the graduation party and I'm pretty short. I'm like 5 foot and half an inch if I stand up real straight. And so there was a girl there that was my height, my age, and she was modeling. And she said she, you know, got all of her money for her clothes. And, you know, she just made it sound really awesome. And I remember I looked at her and I thought, you know, if she can do it, I'll bet you I can do it. So I got from her the information, and I can talk a lot, guys. So if you want to interrupt me,
well, no, I'll keep going, because that was going to be my first question, was what your first job was. Was it modeling when you got to Japan? And it sounds like it was.
Well, at that time, there was a TWA flight attendant who was living in Japan, retired. She started a modeling school for all the, you know, the Americans and all the foreigners. So I took the course, modeling course, and she taught you how to put on makeup and, you know, just kind of the basics, because I was 17 at the time. And, you know, 17, I wasn't wearing maybe mascara. That was about it. And a little bit of lipstick, you know. So I, you know, was getting taught the basics. And while I was at the class, a client came in and saw me and booked me immediately. It was for an accordion magazine. And they had me in a bikini on the cover of an accordion magazine, you know. So that was my first modeling job. But prior to that, a person I knew from the modeling school did a program called English for Millions. And it was a daily TV show, like half an hour, I guess, that was pumped into, I don't know if pump's the right word, but it was, you know, into the junior high school kids to learn English. And she was leaving and they needed a replacement. So she took me down to NHK Studios, introduced me, and I got the job. So that was my very first job, but my very first modeling job was the accordion in a bikini.
This is Eric. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interject here, but this is kind of similar to a question I'm going to have later on, but I kind of want to ask it now, or ask partially of it now. Was there like it sounds like there was people there that were speaking English or that you were able to communicate with. So it wasn't hard maybe for you to kind of assimilate into Japan, because it seemed like there was some places or companies that were specializing in like maybe like American things. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes and no. Like the TV show, the star of the TV show was half Japanese and half English. So he spoke English and fluent. He was bilingual. So when I went to interview, he is who I talked to. And then any of the Japanese people that spoke to me, he interpreted. And then when I went out on a modeling job, the agency would send an interpreter with me. But it only lasted for about 4 months where I needed an interpreter, because I have an aptitude for languages. So I picked up Japanese pretty quickly. And I mean, I wouldn't be able to speak politics or religion or anything really deep, but, you know, like turn your head this way, stand that way, smile, those kind of things. You know, what do you want for lunch? You know, where's the bathroom? Things like that. So after a while, I didn't need an interpreter with me.
Wow.
That's fascinating, Linda. That is so fascinating.
Mhm.
That's amazing.
That's impressive because I've heard Japanese is a very, very difficult language to learn.
It's difficult because there's like 3 levels. There's like the street level. There's like you and I talking, lower than the street level, you and I talking, and then the honorific where you would be speaking to somebody and you have high respect for, and you would, like submit to them. So, which I could not speak at all. I was like right in the middle,
Okay. Wow.
I learned a few cuss words, but I wouldn't say them.
That's great.
I wasn't so brave back then.
So other than the accordion modeling job, did you get any other modeling jobs?
I started working immediately. I never finished the modeling course. I just started working almost every day. I did magazine work. I did one fashion show, which I hated because I'm not real graceful. And so I was worried I was going to stumble. I was going to fall. That was not my thing, And you have no privacy when you do a fashion show. You're back behind the curtain and they're dressing and undressing you. So they're in your underclothing and there's no privacy whatsoever. So I was not keen on that. So I only did one and I said, I didn't want to do anymore. So I did, fashion. I did a lot of commercial stuff for toothpaste, Noxema kind of stuff, for girls breaking out, I did a lot of commercial kind of modeling more than fashion because I didn't have the height for fashion. But I worked all the time. I did a couple commercials, one for Nikon camera and another one. Oh, it was I had a contract for the toothpaste for a while. And then I was so excited because when I was, I think 18, I got the cover of the Asian markets Mademoiselle magazine. And that was the first magazine cover I ever did. That was so exciting. And then as time went on, I also did a DJ show, which was so funny because I didn't hardly say anything. There was a famous disc jockey in Tokyo, and they had me on, and he would announce in Japanese, and I would announce in English. Sometimes we'd have a little conversation in a mixture of Japanese and English. So that was kind of fun, What else did I do? Then I had the way Arthur Rankin of Rankin Bass, the way he discovered me was I had a contract for the cover of a young girls magazine. It was a weekly magazine. It was myself and another foreign model, another, military girl. And we would, switch off every other week. And then sometimes we would do the cover together, so we'd switch off every other week. And one of the magazine covers Arthur saw that prompted him to find out how to get in touch with me. He found out I was living in Japan. I'm sure he's thinking, oh, I can save a lot of money. Knowing Arthur, that's what he was thinking. And so that's how Arthur, that's how I wound up in King Kong Escapes. Wow, okay. Never mind. I'm getting ahead of myself.
No, that's perfect because that's actually my next question was how did you land the role for Lieutenant Watson?
Yeah. Well, I got a call out of the blue because we were living on base, and I got a call out of the blue from him. He introduced himself and said he was doing a movie and he'd like to talk to me about being in his movie. And my first thought was, yeah, right. I'm sure that's what you don't know me. I don't know how to act. And I said to him, I'm not an actress. I don't know how to act. And I'm sorry, that's my phone.
That's okay.
Hope my mom will get it. So I agreed finally, after a couple conversations, I agreed to meet with Arthur. And I met him at a really fancy restaurant, which it was a French restaurant there in Tokyo, and I remember I was very impressed with that, it was an expensive restaurant. So I met him there, and I was still somewhat guarded because although I never ever had any bad experiences in Japan with the way I was treated by anybody, if you can read between the lines, I wasn't sure where Arthur was coming from. So we discussed the movie. He told me all about the movie. And I said, "Are you talking about the Fay Ray part?" He said, "Yes." And I said, "I don't know how to act." He says, "That's okay. You look like Susan Watson, and I want you in my movie." So we met several times, and each time I tried to talk him out of casting me. He never gave me a screen test. He never checked to see how I would do in front of the camera, because acting and modeling are extremely different. Because with modeling, you're stationary, you're doing poses, but with acting, it's like, like we're talking now. That should how acting should be. So I had no experience. And finally I said, "Okay, if you want to cast me, I will do the part, but don't blame me if I ruin your movie," Because honest to God, I mean, why would he? I mean, just because somebody looks the part doesn't mean they should get the part. So anyway, so that's how I came to be in King Kong Escapes.
That's so interesting. Were you aware of like Toho or Godzilla or any of their excuse me, any of their science fiction monster movies
No,
prior
not
to
at
King
all.
Kong Escapes?
I knew about Toho because there was a singer actor that I had a crush on, and he was a Toho actor. So I knew Toho was like the I don't know, the premier studio of all the studios. I had never seen Godzilla. I'd never seen a monster movie that I can recall. So I actually, and I'm really glad it was this way, I actually went there not knowing anything. I had no idea who Takarada was, who Honda-san was. I knew of Hamamiya from the James Bond films. But I just thought nobody's ever going to see this movie. And so I went in there very blind and very naive, and I'm grateful for that, because if I had known the caliber of some of the people I was working with, I would have even been more nervous.
So it's kind of good that you went into it kind of blind, not knowing what was going on. You're like, okay, I'll just accept this role, and I'll just be acting with some other actors, not knowing who they are.
I have a job to do, so I'll just go and do my job.
That's so funny. Before we move on, I just wanted to highlight a couple comments from some of the people that are in our chat. Leslie, who has met you at G-Fest, actually he met you last year at G-Fest, he said. He was just kind of comparing, did you ever think of yourself being like a Bond girl because you were a leading lady for Kong in any way?
No, Bond girls look better than I do.
Oh
no.
And I never ever thought about that. In fact, I never thought, when I started the film, I thought it'd be one and done. And then I kind of caught the bug while I was doing it. And but I never fantasized about being a Bond girl. I think if I would have met Sean Connery, I wouldn't even be able to talk. I thought he was so handsome. In fact, the older he got, the handsomer he got when his hair turned white. Oh my! I remember seeing a movie. I'm sorry, I'm geeking out here. I remember seeing it with him and Lorraine Bracco, Medicine Man, or something like that. And
yes,
he was so handsome in that. Anyway, we'll move on.
I love it. Another comment I just kind of wanted to highlight is one of our another co-hosts for this show, Jordan. It's his birthday today, actually, and he's watching this stream, watching you as a birthday tribute to himself. So yeah.
Well, happy birthday. Happy birthday.
And he said his
That's great.
fiance Michelle is right next to him, and she's a huge fan of yours.
Hi there, Michelle. Oh yeah, if it's probably a really good idea that if your boyfriend likes all these kaiju movies, that you kind of understand and go with it too.
Yeah.
Because I have a friend who probably from 8 years old, now he's close to 60. He's crazy for these movies. He goes to every event that he possibly can. So
Wow.
yeah, gives you
That's
something to
super
talk
awesome.
about.
Yeah, right. Oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah.
All right. So I think you talked a little bit about like just your experience being a foreigner in Japan and how welcoming it was. Did that
Yes.
translate on set also, where they were
Yes.
very welcoming and just helping you out however they could?
Yes. And I think a lot of it depends on how the foreigner is acting towards the Japanese.
Okay.
The Japanese people were very, very kind. My mom had a story. She was, I'm trying to remember the details. She was in a store and she must have looked lost because she said this Japanese woman came up, grabbed her by the hand and took her to where she wanted to go, just out of the blue. So they're very, and I thought after the war, because it wasn't that long after the war, 20 years. And so I thought, what was I going to encounter? But everybody there was really, really nice. I did, on one occasion, my girlfriend and I, we went into, it's not a bar in the sense that America's bars. It was a place you could eat and drink. And there were a couple GIs in there that were sloppy drunk and just embarrassed the crap out of me. But the Japanese were just so kind. And I had, one nice thing was they were my size, I could go buy shoes, I could buy dresses, everything fit because we were, it's not that way now, but when I was there, we were all, the same size, which was really cool. Yeah. But, and the fact that I spoke Japanese, I made an effort to speak their language. I did immerse myself because I worked almost every day and I didn't have but one American friend the whole time I was there. And that was after King Kong escapes.
Wow. So it sounds like you had a positive experience on set, and that's really wonderful. And does that like does that go as well with your co-stars? Like how would you describe working with, Rhodes Reason and Kira Takarada, who's very, very famous and well known here, for their Godzilla contributions, but were they welcoming as well?
Yeah. Takarada-san was great. He and I could talk. He didn't speak hardly any English, but we could communicate. And, at that time he was married to Miss Universe or something like some, beauty contestant, winner rather. And so he showed me pictures and we just, in between takes, sometimes when we were together, excuse me, I have the hiccups, we would just, talk normal. He was very, very, very nice. And same with Rhodes. He was like Big Daddy on the set. He helped me quite a bit with my scenes and stuff. And in fact, he's the one that said, do not go to dailies. Dailies mean you go and see that day's filming. It has no music. It's not been edited. It's just raw. And he said, don't go. He said, don't go. Well, I went because I was curious. And I said, I'll never go again. Because it's you don't realize how much they polish everything up, with music and just the way they cut the film. And but he was very kind to me. And I said to him, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm sorry if I don't do it right. I'm trying my best, And even Honda-san was he was just really calm and kind and patient with me. And I could understand probably 75% of what he was saying to me, but we did have an interpreter on the set because, Rhodes spoke no Japanese. So the interpreter was there for Rhodes and I. And he was the kind of director that didn't intimidate you because I was so intimidated. I mean, the first 2 weeks, I said to my mom, I know they're going to fire me. I'm just sure they're going to fire me. And because I just didn't know what I was doing, you know. And Honda-san had a way, if he did not like what you were doing, he wouldn't yell and scream and embarrass you. He would just say, okay, let's move on. You know, he tried a couple times and he'd say, okay, let's move on, you know. So that's what he did. He was
just kind of his way of like correcting, or, you know, if he knew that it just wasn't working out, he was like, okay, I know this, we're just going to move on and everything.
And he sometimes would demonstrate what he wanted, you know, physically. He would say, put your hand to your mouth and look like this. So I could mimic real well. So when we had those scenes that he did that, he was real happy because he told me exactly what he wanted and I did exactly what he asked, you know. I mean, I really wanted to please everybody because they were all professionals and I wasn't. And I wanted them to know that I didn't know what I was doing, you know, but I was trying my best. I didn't want to come off as a know-it-all because I didn't know anything. Yeah. So so
did you like hang out with Rhodes a lot more just because he knew English and everything, and he was more of a veteran actor and everything, and he's been in the business for a very long time?
If we had scenes together, yes. But I had a lot of scenes where Rhodes wasn't in it. You know, like the scene where Kong is lifting me up. You know, it was the sound stage was empty and it was a blue screen. And and Kong's hand was right there, huge and uncomfortable to sit on. So they, you know, give me a little step stool or ladder to sit up on to get into his hand. And you know, so Rhodes helped me to visualize what it was I needed to do. Because I could visualize, I just didn't know what to visualize. So he would explain to me, all right, when you do this scene, I want you to do X, Y, and Z. And that helped so much. He had Rhodes was he was funny. He and Takarada joked. They didn't understand a word each other said, but they joked constantly. You know, they were doing a one-upman, but very nice, very friendly. And he told me about the time in a scene, he had to kiss this woman who had really bad breath. And he said, I did not want to kiss her, you know, I did not want to do that. He said, so I pretended that she was a rose. And I just, you know, in my mind, I didn't see her face. I saw a rose and I kissed the rose. And so he helped me learn how to visualize. So he was helpful is the only word I can think of.
You were talking. Oh, I'm sorry, Eric. Did you want to? I didn't cut you off, did I?
Nope.
Okay. You were talking like sitting on Kong's hand. This is a guilty pleasure question of mine. Okay. Did you ever get the chance to sneak in and watch the suits and the fighting and the monster action being filmed? I mean, that being the fans that we are, that's like our dreams is to actually be on set with that.
I did not see the suits, but I saw the little teeny miniature trees and people and is it Subaraya? Is that the one who does the special effects?
Yes.
Okay, Subaraya. All right, so there was a sound stage next to ours, and I was in between takes, and I was just kind of hanging out. And so I went out and I went into that sound stage, and sound stages are huge. And he had this big platform. It was like raised up maybe 6 inches, maybe a foot. And they had teeny little trees, teeny little everything that you can think of. And so if you scooted down and you looked like this, you could imagine how it was going to be photographed and it would look really real. And I was there for the scene where Kong has been gassed and he's passed out, and then the helicopter come and clamp his feet and arms and lift him up and whisk him away. So I was actually there for that scene, and it was fascinating. It was just,
wow.
Yeah, it was fascinating. They were real artists, those people.
Yeah, that's, oh my gosh, that would be a dream come true just to see that stuff in action. Yeah. Oh my goodness gracious.
Because at the time I was thinking, how are they going to do all this? But how are you going to get? I just couldn't imagine how they were going to get, this big, huge Kong and me in his hand. I just had no idea how they were going to do it. And then as things progressed, I got educated, obviously. And it was, and that was before CGI and everything was done by hand. And it just was really cool. Really cool.
Oh yeah, like the Japanese themselves, I mean, basically pioneered the way those type of movies are made, and they're just masters at their craft. That their use of deception and different ways of doing different things that doesn't seem like it would be real, but they're able to do it. It's absolutely astounding to me, and it's I mean, oh gosh, it's great.
Yeah, it's quite incredible.
Yeah, it really is. Well, we're gonna take a couple questions here in the chat. Leslie was asking, what did you think of the Godzilla suit? What did you think of the overall appearance of him? Oh boy.
Well, interestingly enough, I had no interaction with Nakajima-san at all, except one day Rhodes and I and Arthur were either in the makeup trailer or hair trailer. We were somewhere on set, and we came out and ran into him, and he was in full bloom, had a suit on, everything, and it looked funny to me, you know what I'm saying? Because he was short too, and it's like, King Kong is a big guy. He was not a big guy at all. So this suit looked funny, but that was part of the charm, I think, was the way he looked.
Absolutely. Yeah, he is goofy in a sense, but he's very unique and distinguished, and you just know that song or that Kong's suit and style and look comes from that particular movie. And I think that's great that it actually just divides him from the others and everything when you know exactly where he's from.
Well, I went to a couple of conventions with him before he passed, and there was no doubt that he was the star at any of the convention. If Takarada was there, if I were there, I don't care who's there, he was the star. He was the one that had the line, all the fans lined up to get his autograph. And he was a nice, and he was entertaining as well. And he really liked the young girls. He'd always get a picture of them, put his arm around them, so. Yeah, he really liked the young girls. And they liked him, I guess. Yeah, he was a nice guy, and his daughter is so sweet. She's really a sweet woman.
Yeah, she really is. Another question was, did you know about any other like Kong films that Toho wanted to ever do after this one was made? Did you ever hear about anything or?
I was so embarrassed with my voice that they dubbed that I never told anybody I was in the movie. I just thought, no one's ever going to see this movie. It's going to just fade away. Boy, was I wrong. I was so embarrassed, that I never told anybody. And so even though when I came back to the States, my dream was to continue acting, and the only people that knew I was in the movie were the people that had to know, which was my agent and my acting coach and people like that. But I was really embarrassed because of the voice. And I was mad at Arthur too, that he did that. But
it was his choice?
Yeah, wasn't my choice. Believe me, wasn't my choice. So Rhodes had said to me, look, when this is over, they're going to fly you back to the States because we've got to dub everything, from beginning to end back into English. So I was excited. Oh, I'm going to go to Hollywood, which I had never been there, And I never got the call. And so when I came back to the States and found out what they had done, it just crushed me, I just thought, man, was I so bad that they couldn't even use my voice, you know? And Rhodes said it wasn't that. He said, basically Arthur didn't, his take on it was Arthur didn't want to go to the expense what he would spend bringing me back. He could spend less having Julie Bennett do my voice. And I said, damn, if she would have just not sound like a little girl, you know, that's like a real, I don't want to say it's a real sore spot because I'm not like carrying it around with me everywhere I go. But in the film, that was the thing that was the most disappointing of everything, was that they didn't use my voice. So, but see, I didn't have a union contract and Rhodes did. So my contract was with Toho. It wasn't with Universal or Arthur. It was Toho. So, you know, so
when did you find out they dubbed over your voice? Was it when it was released?
When I came back to the States. We came back in February of '68. So it was shortly, probably within a month or two, I found out, but I hadn't heard it, you know. And then I think the first time I heard it was on TV, and I was mortified, you know.
Wow,
and that's a shame. Yeah. So I take it you were not a fan. That answers one of my questions that I was going to ask.
What gave you that impression? I was not a fan. I was super not a fan. And I wasn't like mad at Julie Bennett because she was doing what she was told to do. I was irritated with Arthur. And if I had ever met up with Arthur again, I would have probably slapped him and said, why'd you do that? You know, I wouldn't have really, but I would have wanted to.
Oh my goodness.
But there's so many things, and you know, with acting, there's so many decisions that are made that have nothing to do with an individual person. It's the whole movie, the whole production, and decisions are made, you know, like I did a cameo in a film last year and the whole thing was cut, you know, and so when the director called me and she was telling me some stuff, and I just got this sense, I said, you called to tell me you cut me out of the film, didn't you? Oh. And she said, yeah, we had to. I said, that's okay. It wasn't that important of a part or anything. I just did it because I wanted to get in front of the camera again. And, but you know, decisions are made that are not necessarily personal, even though you take
not personal, it's just business.
Yeah. Well, even Takarada-san, he did the cameo in the 2014 Godzilla, and it was cut. And you know, at least Gareth, mad respect to him, had the kindness to handwrite a note to Akira Takarada and apologize to him, because apparently it was not Gareth's decision. It was higher up than him.
That was very nice. Now, I'm sure Takarada-san, you know, appreciated that a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So let me tell you.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Okay. You want to know about green slime?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So after we wrapped with King Kong, if I'm getting ahead of you guys, you can let me know.
Yeah, no worries.
All right. After we wrapped on King Kong Escapes, my one American friend said, they're shooting a movie over at Toei Studios. Well, where I lived in a housing area called Grant Heights, and Toei Studios was like really, really close. So we got in the car and we went over to Toei Studios. And so we walked on the set and they were filming the green slime. And we were just tourists, you know, watching them. Okay. And that was Richard Jackal was there, and Luciano Paluzzi, and Robert Horton. And so I was like, you know, being a fan, watching the professionals work. And the director came up and said, girls, do you want to be in my movie? And we said, yeah, we'd love to. So that's how I made Green Slime. I just was at the right, kind of my whole career in Japan I was at the right place at the right time with the right look. It just was, all the dominoes fell and perfect timing. So that's how I did green slime. Is simple as that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's all it takes is just luck, you know?
Yeah. Well, and I was like shocked when I heard people saying, "Oh, I love the green slime," you know, because I was there when they were filming the monsters, you know, those monsters. It was so funny. It looked better on film than it did in person. In person, it looked really silly, you know.
That's so funny. And
But
actually, Leslie brought up a comment where he thinks the theme song is one of the catchiest.
that's the best part of the movie is the theme song. Yeah. You know, and I had never seen it. And in 2021, I went to San Francisco. Bob Johnson, I can't remember the name of it. Bob Johnson has a convention. It's a little different than the normal conventions because it's at a movie theater and he's playing all these different, you know, Green Slime, Godzilla, you know, the original Godzilla, and then all the other Godzillas. So when I was there, they said, "Have you ever seen Green Slime?" And I said, "No." So they sent me in to watch the movie. And that was the first time I had seen it, you know. And I'm not in it much, but there's a couple scenes, you know. I went, "Oh, there I am. Oh, there I am," you know.
Oh my goodness. So what was like the overall experience or atmosphere like being on set with like Ishiro Honda and Akira Takarada, like some legendary actors and people that made movies in the industry? Like what kind of atmosphere feel was it? Was it very serious? Was it a little bit laid back? Was it all business? You know, what was it for the most part?
It was very comfortable, but I don't want to say serious. It was very comfortable, but professional. And it was not an uptight set at all. Even, you know, all the different stagehands, the grips and all those people, they were all friendly. We were all discussing, but when it was time for a scene, it was like, now we're down to business, you know. Honda-san, as gentle of a human being as he was in total control of everything. You knew that he was captain of the ship and you did what he told you to do, but he has just such a gentle, sweet way. You just wanted to do what he wanted you to do. And the you know, all the actors and all the, you know, people behind the camera, it just was kind of like a nice family atmosphere. It was a good experience for me. You know, and I'm so grateful because it could have been horrible, you know. And the thing is, one of the things that made it so good is Takarada-san is an alpha dog. Rhodes was definitely an alpha dog, and they bantered back and forth, but nicely, you know, respectfully to one another. I mean, they would tell dirty jokes to one another, you know. Yes. And I'm like, okay, guys, you know, and, you know, and neither one of them spoke each other's language, but somehow they were able to communicate and they genuinely liked and respected one another. You know, there was, you know, Rose, because of the American lead, he was kind of like the daddy, and and Takarada was, I didn't know he was my love interest until somebody pointed it out. But I
was going to ask that, you know?
Yeah. So the whole atmosphere was great. And it was when it's time to get down to business, they got down to business, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Nope, go ahead, Eric. You want to say something?
I was just going to add to that. So when you found out about being the love interest for Takarada, like, did it make it a little bit more nerve-wracking when you were with scenes with them and stuff?
I didn't know until after a fan told me years later. I said, "Really? He was my love interest." I didn't get it. I was 19, very, very naive, very young, you know. And then I look back and went, yeah, I guess we were kind of, you know, intimated that it was something like that, you know.
Yeah.
And I thought,
oh, that's funny.
Gee, I couldn't have done better, you know. Yeah, but I've got some on the wall when we were in the cooler, and that's when we actually were hugging one another. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
That's awesome.
So that was a big surprise to me.
To piggyback off Eric's question about the atmosphere on set, was there other challenges like you had to overcome while being on set? Obviously, maybe like a language barrier, like you touched on earlier, but was there anything else that was maybe hard for you that you had to maybe, I don't know, work on every day, or some issue that you had to overcome?
My acting. That was my big issue, was my acting. And we had to get up at just so early in the morning and do for hair and makeup. I am not a morning person. So for me to go to bed at 8 o'clock at night is like, oh. So I had to go to bed at 8 o'clock at night because I was getting up at like 4 in the morning or something. But my biggest challenge was not the language, was not the people. The only challenge, I'm sure there may have been others, but I can't remember, was my acting. Not feeling confident that I could do what I needed to do. And I didn't want to let down the other people. I mean, you guys have no idea. I mean, I never said, oh, when I grow up, I want to be an actress. I never did that. So to be kind of thrown in, into the deep end of the pool, it was very scary. But by the end, kind of towards the late middle and to the end, I started relaxing a little bit. I was very uptight. Anytime I had to do a scene, I was very uptight, And Rose used to say, breathe, Linda, breathe, So that was my hurdle, was complete lack of confidence in what I was doing and trying not to look like I wasn't confident, There's one scene, and I don't even want to tell you which one it is. There's one scene, every time I see it, I close my eyes and went, oh my God, that was the worst you could have ever done. It's not fun to watch yourself on camera, on film rather. It's just not fun, because no matter how good you are, which was not my experience, but no matter how good you are, you always think, oh, I could have done this. It could have been better, Yeah, so there's this one particular scene that I hate seeing that scene. Thank God it's over really quickly. And it's funny because the very first scene we did is when I'm walking through the ship or the submarine in the very beginning, and I'm saluting them and talking about castor oil. That's the very first scene we ever did. And I was so nervous, and we must have done that 10 times.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm sure every time was exactly the same as the first time, because they were, what do I do? And, but when I saw it on film, I went, well, that's not as bad as I thought it was, So that was that was nice to see that. Yeah. But there were some scenes that were just funny.
Yeah. You don't want to tell us what?
No, I don't want to tell you.
Because I mean, our opinion might be completely different. We might actually love that.
I doubt it. I doubt it very seriously. I think that would be the one thing everybody could agree upon.
Oh goodness. Yeah, it's always the worst. Like self-critical about yourself is always the worst. For even just taking pictures of yourself, you're just like, oh, I just hate that one. You got to redo it. Yeah, I could imagine you watching yourself act and everything. You're always going to be your hardest critic, because you think, oh yeah, I should have done this differently, or I should have done it that way, or oh man, let's just whatever. Like, yeah, you're always going to have that. But honestly, like, you did a tremendous job in the film, and I love your performance. So like, know that like we appreciate what you did in the film, and you did a very good job.
Thank you.
So I was interested. So I want to give your opinion on this. So you are one of a few, actually, that is like a leading lady for Kong. how does that make you feel, like, to join in the ranks of like Naomi Watts and Jessica Lange and Faye Ray and now Linda Miller? Like, what do you think of that?
Somebody pointed that out to me. I never thought of it, and a fan pointed it out to me, and I thought, wow, that's kind of special, you know. I know this will not happen, but wouldn't it be cool if they got all the Come girls together? You know,
Oh my goodness! Yes.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
That would be amazing.
I mean, yeah, it's, you know, I'm a whole lot older than I was back then, and so for me, this, you know, the first quarter or first third of my life, it was like everything I did just was like God had his hand on me and I was a puppet and he was directing me. And I, you know, then the second third was kind of ho hum. And then all of a sudden, you know, my last third, which I'm going to stretch out as long as I can, my last third is like, it's all, not all, but it's coming back again. And this time I really appreciate it. So when people say that, I think that is kind of special, and I should honor, you know, the luck and fortune and you know, that I've had in my life. I've been very, very fortunate. Even during the blah years, I've been very, very fortunate.
That actually is kind of a perfect segue into something I wanted to ask. So people had been trying to find you for years to bring you to a Godzilla convention or a monster convention. Were you aware that you had such a fan base and that all of us nerds were all like, find her, where's Linda? You know, like, how did that, when somebody finally found you, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
Well, the way it happened is I was at work and I got a phone call from Brett Helmnick. And he said, "Hi, my name is Brett and I live in Japan." And I said, "Oh my gosh, I used to live in Japan too." And he says, "I know." He says, "I've been looking for you." And my first thought was, "Ooh, what did I do that you're looking for me?" And he says, "I've been looking for you." He says, "In fact, that you have a lot of fans." And I could have fallen off my chair. I had no idea. I didn't know that you guys did conventions, let alone that you would want me at a convention. And so he proceeded to tell me that he'd been looking for me for 15 years. And the cool way that he found me is he lives in Japan and he was with an actor named Natsuki Yosuke. Now, Natsuki and he was my first love. So when I was doing King Kong Escapes, I met Natsuki and we were together until I left. And then we stayed not together, but we stayed in communication for probably 5-6 years after that. Anyway, so he said, Natsuki said, he mentioned something. "I've been looking for this girl, Linda Miller, but I don't know." Hi, Mom. My mom just came in. Hi.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
Come on. Okay. Call Eddie. Call Eddie. Okay. I'm sorry.
No,
no worries.
Okay. I'm on the thing. Oh. So my mom's 95 and she's so cool.
That's
so
great.
anyway,
God
he said,
That's
"I'm
awesome.
looking for this girl, Linda Miller." What? My mom?
Yeah, I said, God bless her. I go, that's amazing. 95. Good for her. Good for her.
So anyway, he said, I've been looking for this girl, Linda Miller, and she does. She's like my wife. She's amazing. I now have to cook because she won't cook anymore. Are you guys there?
Yeah, we're kind of losing you a little bit here. Hopefully it'll fix itself.
All right. Natsuki said, "Tell me." And I was like,
So it
As
was a
soon
fan
as
that
he said
reached out.
Natsuki, then I relaxed and I said, okay, what's, I was willing to talk to him, and he was a fan, and he used to write for G Fan magazine.
Okay.
So, and that's how the whole thing started. He wrote an article in G Fan, and then from there things started to happen.
Wow. And then
In
so
fact,
did they was it like G-Fan that kind of got a hold of you, kind of one of the first ones to get you to come, or was there a different convention that wanted you to come?
I got a phone email from a manager, and I never responded to him because I was just real suspicious.
Yeah.
And then probably about 2 months later, I got a package in the mail, actually at my work, and I thought it was something else that I didn't want, and so I didn't open it for over a month. Finally, I opened it, and there was a letter, and there were pictures from Takarada-san saying, "Come join me in conventions."
Wow.
And yeah, and so then I contacted the manager, and then my very first convention was Chiller in October 2015.
Wow.
And that's probably a whole world you probably had to have been shell shocked. I mean, it's like you said, it's a whole world you never knew existed.
Well, I told, when Jim said he wanted me to come, to a convention, I said, "Jim, I don't look like I used to when I was 19 years old." And he said, "Don't worry, your fans don't look like they used to either. So don't worry about it."
That's very true.
And then, so I said, "Okay, I'll come to the convention." And before I left, I said to my mom, "Oh my God, what if nobody wants my autograph? I'm going to be so embarrassed." And then I was pleasantly surprised that people did want my autograph.
Great. That's great.
Super awesome. Oh, that's awesome. So what was like one of your fondest, like, just memories that you will never forget when filming, either King Kong Escapes or even Green Slime?
This is interesting. My fondest memory is it was lunchtime, and I was at the commissary at the studios at Toho, and in walked Toshiro Mifune. And I don't know if you're old enough to remember the E.F. Hutton commercials where somebody walks in and everybody's quiet. Okay, you're probably too young. It was just like that. He walked in the room and everybody just froze, in awe. And he walked in and he went and got something, and then he left. He was the most beautiful man I had ever seen. His aura, he was like a mega star, and he just carried that aura with him everywhere he went. That was probably my most memorable experience making the film, was, sitting down and watching him walk in the door, and just, I couldn't take my eyes off of him. He was so beautiful and so manly. He was just, macho in the nicest sense of the word. He was just very manly. And that just blew my mind. That was, and of course, then I met Natsuki when I was doing King Kong. And so that was special too.
Oh, that's awesome.
I'm sorry it's not about the film.
No, that's okay. No. That's great. I love that.
Any story about Toshiro Mifune is 1,000% fine. That is amazing.
And he was like in his prime right then. This was 67 we were filming, summer of 67. And he was at his prime. And, he was Mr. Toho Studios.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we're coming up on an hour here, and I don't want to keep we don't want to keep you too much longer. We want to be respectful of your time, but I have one more question if you don't mind. You are considered amongst our fans one of the, you know, strong female, kind of like Toho was kind of like a juggernaut when it came to that. Like, yeah, they made these films that young boys and girls, but let's be honest, it was probably more young boys that were fans of these giant monster films. But they made so many great films with so many great female actresses, and I think that's really awesome, especially considering it's not it wasn't I'm trying to think how to say this. It was before now. I think it would be easy to say, oh, it's happening now. This happened, you know, 40, 50, 60, 70 years ago. They were making these films and had such awesome female characters. Have you ever thought about that? And if you have, what are your thoughts on that?
No, I never really, especially at the time, I didn't think about it. But what kind of blows my mind is that even though I worked almost every day on the film, it didn't really occur to me that I was kind of like Kong and I were like the main deal, you know? And yeah, and I think when I was filming it, I had so many things going on with feeling insecure and all that. I couldn't step back and look at the big picture and go, wow, how did you manage to get in this place at this time, you know? But yeah, you know, in all the Kong films, the females are really strong and important, you know, at least I think. But I had no realization at the time.
What about now? Like, you just looking back on it, like, what do you think of it now? Like, do you have more of appreciation for it? Is it just mind blowing? Is it, you know,
It's
just
not-
knowing that you're included in all of these Toho actresses, especially back in that Showa era, that like you are one of the one, you know?
My mind was blown that somebody sent me not a kind of like a magazine, but and it was the Toho women, and it had all. I'm terrible with names, but it had all the mega stars that were women, and then I was included in that, and I just went, oh my God, it's very humbling. Because you think, you know, yourself, you go, I don't deserve to be there. But then you see yourself and you go, holy crap, you know, you know, that blew my mind. I went, wow, I am a Toho woman, you know, one of the women of Toho during that era. And that's why when I go to conventions, I'm as thrilled as the fans to see the fans as they are to see me, because especially at my age, you have more appreciation for those special times in your life. And right now is a special time as well, you know. And I love the fans, and I love how sincere they are. I've never had a weird experience. I mean, the weirdest experience I've ever had was one fellow, he walks up and down, and as he walks by, he stares at me, and he walks by again and stares at me. That's the worst it's ever been, and that's not bad, you know. But all the fans are appreciative and respectful, and you know, who doesn't love being loved, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I love going to conventions, and I love meeting the fans, and I just hope it never ends. I mean, I'm sure it will at some point, but I hope it. I'm just, you know, milking it for all I can right now in terms of being with the fans.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
I've actually gone to a few conventions I knew I wouldn't make very much money at, but I went because I wanted to go, you know. So
and that's what it's all about. Like you are making fans' dreams come true, just seeing them, talking to them, acknowledging them. Like that speaks to your personality and the type of person you are. And that's very awesome to see, because we appreciate it. I know a lot of people that you've met appreciate it. I mean, I know people that I've talked to, they love meeting you. They great experiences and stuff like that. So yeah, that is what it's all about. And
well, really, the fans is what it's all about, because without the fans, who would care about me? Do you know what I'm saying? And it goes for any star, and it really makes me angry when I hear things about certain stars at conventions are rude. That really pisses me off, to be quite honest. And there's no call for that because we're not that special. What makes any of us special is the fans. Without the fans, you know what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head, man. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, and it's funny because I have my regular life, and then when I get a chance to go to a convention, it's like, oh, here's my fantasy fun life, At home, not everybody loves me that I see. When I go to the convention, it's like, oh, I can do no wrong.
Yeah.
I'm exaggerating, but you know what I'm saying. It's like my real life and then my fun life.
Yeah. Well, I'll do one more question, then we'll end this and everything. I just want to kind of get your thoughts. So, after doing Kong and everything, did you end up, becoming like a Godzilla giant monster fan in any way, or have you watched the newer stuff? And if so, do you like any of it?
Okay, here's my story. I had never seen Godzilla, the original Godzilla, until I was in San Francisco in 2001. And that's when I was at the theater and they were showing, and they said, you've never seen the original. So they made me go in the theater and watch the original. And I was amazed at how young Takarada-san looked. He looked like a baby, he was so young. So I haven't seen all the Godzillas. I'm getting ready to see was Godzilla -1 because it's on Netflix, I think.
Netflix.
So I didn't go to the theaters. I work a lot and I take care of my mom. So I don't go to as many things as I'd like to. And I don't have any of my friends that are, monster freaks.
Yeah.
All of them are in LA, the ones that I know. So I saw Godzilla versus King Kong, and I loved it. I loved that it wasn't one-sided. It wasn't, Godzilla's going to beat the crud out of King Kong or vice versa. I loved the camaraderie, even though they were enemies, they joined together for a mutual enemy, the enemy of my enemy, kind of thing. So I loved that. And I liked Shin Godzilla because it had a little bit of similarity to mine in the sense of Brie Larson's relationship with Kong, just a little bit of similarity. And when Samuel Jackson in that movie got killed, I was so happy. Yay! Because he was so mean to Kong. Yeah. So, and I had seen when, back in the 70s, I saw Jessica Lange's. I never saw Naomi Watts' version. So I haven't seen a lot of them, but just a few. I was in one, but I'm not. It's not that I'm not a fan. I'm just not. I have other tastes, besides that. Sure. I shouldn't say that.
Absolutely, and that is definitely okay. We all have our other likes too. Like it's not always just about this one thing. We're human. We like other things. That's okay.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you anything that Keanu Reeves is in or Denzel Washington. Yeah. Because I don't care what the storyline is. It's going to be they're going to be great acting in that film.
Absolutely. So. Absolutely. Yeah, I think that'll wrap us up. Linda, thank you for joining us. Thank you for all your stories and your time. It's been an amazing time well spent, honestly, because this is a dream come true to talk with you. And like I said, big crush, this is surreal for me and Joe, and everything. So yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. Everybody in the chat, if you don't see it, they are thanking you as well for coming aboard here and just sharing your thoughts and your experiences and stuff like that. So just thank you so much for being here. Joe, do you have anything to add before we get out of here?
Just to reiterate what you already said, Eric, Linda, thank you so much. It's truly been an honor and a privilege and a pleasure to talk with you for this past hour. You're so sweet and kind, and every time I've seen you at conventions, you've been so sweet and kind, not just to me, but to everybody that I've seen you interact with, and that's very special. And I think you are way too hard on yourself with your acting when it comes to King Kong Escapes. You had a chemistry on film, you and Takarada.
Yeah, we did.
Yes, and it was special, and thank you so much.
Well, guys, thank you. I love to talk, as you can tell, and I appreciate you inviting me here, and it was fun for me as well.
Absolutely. Linda, before I'm sorry, Eric, before we leave, is there any convention appearances coming up that you would like to plug or tell anybody that you'll be at?
Do you know, every time I do a podcast, I always forget the name of where I'm going. But in July at G-Fest, I'm not at G-Fest as a guest, but there is a filmmaker who's doing a documentary on Honda-san, my director. And so he's paying for me to go to Chicago, where he can interview me for his documentary. And then he wants me, which blows my mind, he wants to film me as I'm walking around at G-Fest. I'm not a guest, but I will be at G-Fest on Friday and Saturday. And then I leave Saturday night and come back home. And then in October, go ahead.
Well, I can't wait to see you. I'm going to definitely come up and introduce myself, if that's okay.
Okay. And I'm going to be mean to you just so that
that's okay. I'm thick-skinned. I can take it.
Okay. And then in October, I'm going to be in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. I can't remember the name of it. It's like October 17th or something like that. And then next year, I don't have a date yet. I'll either be in Boise or I'll be in Reno. They're trying to figure out which one they want me at. So,
okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Excellent.
So yeah, everybody, you heard it here. She has conventions coming up. Check them out and go meet Linda Miller, because she is a sweetheart. So
I'll post pictures on my fan page.
Perfect.
My Facebook page.
Yeah, and I cannot wait. Hopefully, like Joe, hopefully I'll see you and introduce myself in person, and because I will be at G-Fest also. So yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. That's really great that you're coming. Yeah, and everything, and you're just gonna be a fan, so you can experience the whole kind of thing, as a fan, obviously kind of working at the same time, but still get to kind of do other things besides, just sitting behind a table and doing autographs, for a majority of the time. So,
well, this way I'll get to see other people. A lot of times I don't get to see the vendors as much as I want to. And so give me a chance to see some of my friends. Do you guys mind if I take a picture right now?
Absolutely.
We would love that.
Oh, my light is reflecting on my screen, so it's going to be a weird picture. It's going to be all right. Thank you. I'm going to post this if you don't mind.
Perfect. Yes, absolutely.
We would love that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
Thank you
we'll
so
sign
much.
Out of here. Yeah, thank you so much, everybody that's been watching live and watching it later. Thank you all so much. And Linda, of course, thank you. And everybody, have a good night. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.